Welcome, friends, to yet another special session of She and Rights ahead of International Youth Day, which is on August 12th, and International Day of World's Indigenous Peoples, which is tomorrow, and also in lead up to the UN General Assembly, where SDG-3 and SDG-5 both are under review this year. This session on the theme of SDG-3 and SDG-5 under Youth Lens is jointly organized by Global Center for Health Diplomacy and Inclusion, International Conference on Family Planning 2025, Family Planning News Network, International Planned Parenthood Federation, Asian Pacific Resource and Research Center for Women, Women's Global Network for Reproductive Rights, Asia Pacific Media Alliance for Health and Development, and CNS. Just a gentle reminder to all media persons who are reporting on issues raised by She and Rights to please apply for the She and Rights Media Awards 2025 before September 15. The link to apply is given in the chat box. And as you know, thanks to Sadie, first prize winners from Asia Pacific and African regions will get to go to the International Conference on Family Planning, ICFP 2025 in Colombia. A few quick housekeeping announcements before we begin. Participants, please keep yourself muted throughout the session. You can type in your questions and comments in the chat box as the session progresses. No need to wait till the end. We will take up as many relevant questions as possible after all speakers have presented. Young people today are growing up in a world beset with climate crisis, technological revolutions, and human-made social upheavals. This session aims to share insights from youth leaders from the Global South on the progress made, or lack of it perhaps, on SDG-3, which is on health and well-being, and SDG-5, which is on gender equality and rights, in the context of young people. Not just gender equality, but human right to health also needs a youth-led and youth-centric approach in all their diversities and contexts so that we do not leave anyone behind. Without any further ado, I invite Debanjana Choudhuri, Executive Director, Women's Global Network for Reproductive Rights, or WGNRR as it is known as, for her opening remarks. Welcome, Debanjana. We are really honored to have you with us today.
Thank you so much, Shobha. Thank you so much for this platform and for having this webinar, which is on such a crucial matter on SDG-5 and SDG-3 and how we are involving the youth and indigenous people in order to ensure that health outcomes and outcomes for SRHR and justice for all are equitable and dignified. A little about Women's Global Network for Reproductive Rights. We are a global South NGO. We work across the regions of Asia, Africa, Latin America with our partners, and we work towards ensuring SRHR and justice for all. The major pillars of work that we do are around safe abortion rights, access to contraception, youth empowerment, and youth advocacy. We engage at global spaces like the CSW, ICFP, ICPD, and also hold governments and states responsible, those who ratify UN conventions, in order to walk the talk. And what we have observed is that over the years, while I would say in the last decade, there has been a considerable change in how young people are being addressed in the SRHR system. It's still miles away from where they are mainstreamed. Young people and youth still face a lot of discrimination when it comes to accessing dignified, non-judgmental care, especially around contraception, and safe abortion. We know that safe abortion or abortion services are so critical to SRHR justice for all. But what we have noticed is that when a young person goes in order to get the service, they are stigmatized. There's high amount of taboo and stigma that is rallied around in order to create a very unsafe and a very vulnerable situation for young people. So what do we do at WGNRR? So in WGNRR, some of our strategies include network and movement building and movement strengthening. We ensure that youth and young people and people from marginalized communities, persons living with HIV, LGBTQIA persons are at the center of all the work that we do. WGNRR facilitates collaborative grassroots efforts, fosters strategic partnerships, and nurtures cross movement solidarity to advance shared goals. And we ensure that young people find not just a voice in all the movement building that we do, but are the heart and soul of the movement building that we do. Further, we also train and build capacities. And while many of our capacity building sessions like VCAT are aimed at midwives and providers of SRHR services, they also capacitate young organizations and youth organizations so that they can take the first step or they can be empowered in order to create their own organizations, their own campaigns, and are able to question those in the in the policy making, the policy makers, in order to ask for proactive changes in laws and policies. Our campaigns and communication strategies are often efforts responding to the demands of SRHR and justice around the world. And we mobilize campaigns around key dates like May 28th, March 28th, and our next campaign is on September 28th, International Safe Abortion Day. And after I have closed my remarks, I'm going to share the links how you can join the campaign as well, because we co-create, co-design the entire campaign, which is a huge solidarity moment for all of us working in the space of feminism and activism. And especially it's important now when we are seeing such backlash against SRHR services for everybody, SRHR campaigns, as well as SRHR, in any work that you do in sexual health and reproductive rights. While we are talking about, and this is a very crucial year because SDG 3 and 5 will be reviewed, we need to see how far have we come in our journey? What are the gains in order to ensure that young people are represented, young people are celebrated in the SRHR journey? But we also need to be cognizant that we are very far away from the dream that SRHR has youth lens. It has a holistic youth, youth participation. So I still feel that, we are very far away from working with young people. We recognize at WGNRR that strong youth-led activism is what the movement at this time needs. We seek to partner, support youth networks, groups, leaders to articulate their issues and demands. And some of the beautiful examples that we have had across the region, across the geographies that we work, wherein we had young advocates build up a network called Power Network in order to end GBV, in order to also address and build their capacities and ask for changes in digital laws because of technology-led GBV, which is becoming more and more potent as we speak. We also have a cohort called Generation Change Makers. So basically, this is a group of young people across Philippines who come together, who question the laws that criminalize abortion, that criminalize comprehensive sexual education, and ask for changes and ask how, so vocally, so loudly that lawmakers need to listen to. And another thing that we do in order to ensure that, we are able to hear the voices from the ground, especially young voices from the ground, we have SRHR dialogues. So in different pockets, we have, local SRHR dialogues where we try to address and bust the myths around SRHR, deconstruct what SRHR means. And SRHR, of course, is in its language and tonality, a very global north concept. SRHR in any of our local languages and the geographies and the demographies that we work in, and not even from the country that I am in, actually translates into what SRHR means in English. So we try to break it down in order to ensure that the call that we are creating together, the activism, the movement that we are building together, it resonates with everybody so that it doesn't look an alien concept. Because nowadays, we activists are also facing backlash that everything on safe portion, everything on SRHR is a foreign concept. It's a Western concept. It wasn't there, or we needn't need to be bothered about it because it is not there in our ancient literature. So what do we do? So we are demystifying all those conversations and creating a synergy between young people and discourses across the world so that they are more and more engaged and enthused to be participating in such advocacy spaces. Now, Shobha, if you also had asked me to address, what happens between access and how do we increase participation of young people? So there are two or three aspects to it. The first thing is that many young people do not get the opportunity. So we need to create that opportunity. We need to create a system, an environment where the opportunity is there for young people in order to participate in such global advocacy spaces, regional and local advocacy spaces. And here I would say, CNS is doing an amazing work of creating a cohort of young advocates who will have the opportunity to be at the ICFP in order to share their work. Then there also comes a space where we need to sustain the capacity. Just building capacity once does not offer any change. So there needs to be sustainability around it, and we need to ensure that we are engaging with young people. We are ensuring mentorship so that they are engaged with the issue. They know where they need to go next in order to talk about their demands, their rights around their bodily autonomy and their choices. And then, of course, when we talk about agency of young people, now we know in most of the countries in global south, it is a reality that comprehensive sexuality education is not available in schools, and there are certain regions where we cannot even call it comprehensive sexuality education. It is known by some other name, and it is reduced to one biology class in school. We need to talk about sexuality education right from school in order to ensure that the individuals who are growing up to be adults, they know what exactly is consent, what are their bodily rights, their autonomy, their choice, and they can take informed decisions on their sexual and reproductive health journey. Moving on from so those are some of the things that we need to continue to do as CSOs, as civil society organizations, as feminists and activists, in order to ensure that it's a safe and dignified space for young people. The other thing is opportunities in education for young people. And that is somewhere even WGNRR helps in creating such opportunities, which has a clear lineage between, a clear connection between SRHR and education. So those are some of the things that we at WGNRR are doing. And I'm going to share the link of our, where you can all register for joining the Global Solidarity Campaign on International Day for Safe Abortion. And thank you so much, Shobha, for creating the space and for, bringing us all together to mark SDG-3 and SDG-5. And again, of course, this is a very crucial year. At global spaces throughout the year, we have seen how there have been, washing down of narratives, where we have seen that, narratives are around sexual and reproductive health are being made to be very fickle, and it is not it is simply important that we all get together and we continue to engage in order to ensure that our rights, our bodily autonomy, our choice is centered and focused. Back to you, Shobha. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Debanjana, and all fours to WGNRR for the excellent work you are doing. And we are trying to be part of that. We are doing our little two bit, as you have mentioned. And thank you for your address and for setting the stage for today's deliberations and for sharing some of the challenges faced by the young in the context of their health, especially sexual and reproductive health and rights, as well as gender equality. Moving on, we now move to a panel discussion with our dynamic youth leaders of today. I will first introduce you to our 9 young panelists in alphabetical order of their names. And we are really proud to have with us Faith Onuh from Global Network of Young People Living with HIV, or Y Plus Global, from Nigeria. She is Gender Equality Fund Ambassador, Global Alliance Champion to End Pediatric AIDS, and founder of Young Persons Network for Sustainable Lifestyle and Health. Then we have with us Magdalena Nadia, Youth Representative of Indonesian Planned Parenthood Association. She is the chairperson of IPPF Youth SRHR Network at East and Southeast Asia and Oceania Regional Office. Marian Wambugu is chair of the PACT Global Coalition, which is a global coalition of youth-led organizations working within sexual and reproductive health and rights and HIV. Marian represents adolescents and young people on Kenya CCM for the Global Fund and is a board member of the Network of TB Champions in Kenya, as well as a board member of Y Plus Global Kenya. Monalisa Akintole of Y Plus Global Uganda is Forum Coordinator of the Uganda National Trans Forum, a national network advancing the rights, health, and dignity of trans and gender diverse people in Uganda. Nishant Kumar, National Coordinator of YPeer, that is Youth Peer Education Network of Nepal, and a member of the Working Group on Disabilities and 2030 Agenda and the Live Now Together campaign. Prashant actively engages with persons with hearing disabilities in Nepal. We also have with us Noor Fatima, specialist in education policy and equity, Rohingya Maìyafuìnor Collaborative Network, which is a network of Rohingya women who are committed to tackling human rights challenges that the Rohingya community faces. Pooja Mishra, National Youth Coordinator of Youth Lead Voices India, which is dedicated to empowering young people living with HIV. Pooja is also General Secretary of National Coalition of People Living with HIV in India. Sonam Phuntsho Wangmo from YPeer Asia Pacific Network from Bhutan. She is an international business management student with practical experience in youth-focused and community-based initiatives across Bhutan. Supriya Rai, Executive Council member of the Asia Indigenous Youth Platform. Supriya currently serves as the Vice President of the Youth Federation of Indigenous Nationalities of Nepal. A very warm welcome to our very dynamic panel of young leaders. So just to explain the process, there will be 2 rounds of questions to guide the conversation. Each panelist gets a maximum of 4 minutes to respond to each question. Please try to stick to the time limit so that everyone gets a chance to share their insights equitably. In the first round, we will follow the same alphabetical order in which I had taken the names. In the second round, I think we will reverse the order. So the first question is, please share the progress made on SDG-3, which is on health and well-being, and SDG-5, which is on gender equality and rights, among youth in your community and country context. 4 minutes responses each. Please, I'm repeating the question. Please share the progress made on SDG-3 and SDG-5 among youth in your community and country context. So our first panelist here is Faith. Over to you, Faith.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can hear you very clearly, Faith.
Okay, Shukla, thank you so much. So I'm going to start to keep to time. So when it comes to Nigeria, here in Nigeria, we've done a whole lot in the country, but when it comes to progress, there is I would like to say that there is this poor progress in my country, because among 100,000 live births here in Nigeria, we have about 512 deaths per 100,000 live births. So maternal mortality is something that is very high here in Nigeria. And also when it comes to healthcare funding, our government is just giving out 5%. of the national budget allocation to health, which is very poor. But with the support from UNICEF Nigeria, we've been able to do a lot here when it comes to addressing child marriage, immunization, and nutrition, and also for maternal and newborn health. So UNICEF in Nigeria have tried their possible best to see how they can have like a country profile to track the progress that have been made when it comes to the SDG goals. And currently now, in Nigeria, there is something that is implemented here. We call it the Gender Equality Fund, that is supported by the Global Network of Young People Living with HIV, Civil Society, CS4Me, and TB Women. So these like three coalitions coming together to get this fund to see how best they can advocate for adolescent girls and young women to give them that spaces to talk about key issues affecting them when it comes to HIV, TB, and malaria. So this fund was given by Global Fund, VIV, and GSK. So with this fund, we've been able to do a whole lot in 6 states here in Nigeria to talk about gender equality, to see how women and girls can be at the core focus in the country. So we have a whole lot happening here in Nigeria with the Donald Trump funding cuts, but we are trying to see how we can keep pushing for women in all their diversities to have this strong voice, to come together to see how they can push for their issues when it comes to stigma and discrimination, inequality, and all of that. So thanks to this funding that was given to about 15 organizations, women-led, they are implementing it across 6 states. So it's a whole lot happening now, and I know that Nigeria will move forward because we are using advocacy to also push for government to create change, because we want good health. The SDG-3 talks about good health, but they need to take ownership. They need to take ownership of their citizens' health, which is not really sane. So imagine giving 5% of all the allocation for budget when it comes to health is really poor in Nigeria, and we still have children dying, especially children living with HIV. Across sub-Saharan Africa, we have like 600,000 children living with HIV who are not yet on treatment. So, and Nigeria is under it. So this call for a whole concern to see how we can address issues affecting children, issues affecting adolescent girls, and also young women, because at this age, you see that they are likely exposed to HIV, TB, and malaria. So we come together. As a young person myself, I keep advocating in decision-making spaces. I make sure that I speak for adolescent girls to see how governments themselves take ownership. I always talk about sustainability, to see how we can strengthen this sustainability framework that we are currently trying to see as a country to fix. Because if we keep talking about donors funding and the country itself is not taking ownership of the citizens' health, trust me, it's going to be a whole lot of issue when a funder pulls out their money and nothing is happening. Thanks to UNICEF, UNFP, and all of that have been supporting the process to see how we can meet the SDG goals. Thank you, and over to you.
Thank you, Faith. Magdalena, we now come to you. Can you please share the status in Indonesia?
Yep, thank you so much, Shobat, and thank you, Rights, for hosting today's panel discussion. So when we talk about SDG-3, health and well-being for young people, especially in our region, East Asia, Southeast Asia, and Oceania region, there has been encouraging movement, but the progress is far too slow. If measures are not accelerated, we will not meet the 2030 targets. One positive step is that sexual and reproductive health services are becoming more youth-friendly. In many urban areas, we now see youth clinics, digital platforms, and peer educators. Mental health awareness is also growing, led by young people using social media and safe spaces to break stigma. In Indonesia, these improvements are visible, but only for some. For many, especially girls in rural or conservative areas, young people with disabilities, or indigenous youth, access is still limited. Stigma, legal barriers like age restrictions, and a lack of youth-friendly providers continue to stand in the way. This brings us to SDG 5, gender equality, where progress has largely stagnated, and there are huge gaps in data and indicators. Many girls continue to face early and unintended pregnancies, early marriages, and rising rates of gender-based violence and FGMC, including technology-perpetuated violence. In Indonesia, early marriage remains a major driver of adolescent pregnancy. While the legal marriage age is now 19, marriage dispensations are still widely granted, often seen as a way to access social protection or escape poverty. That legal loophole makes it easy to say yes to child marriage and very hard for girls to say no. So even though we have made progress through youth-led SRHR campaigns, peer education, and mobile services, it doesn't really reach everyone, especially when the system still allows girls to be pushed into marriage, often without their consent. This undermines both SDG 3, their right to health, and SDG 5, their right to choose their future. And when we look wider, women and girls also face poverty, food insecurity, and limited access to education, water, or electricity. Climate change is making this worse, from drugs to displacement. It is a clear reminder that gender intersects with every SDG. But here, what gives me hope, young people are not silent. In our member associations across the region, youth are leading peer education campaigns, working with health providers, and engaging with local leaders to challenge child marriage and other related issues. We are driving the change, but we cannot do it alone. To truly achieve SDG 3 and 5 for youth, we must center young people, especially those most affected, girls, rural youth, indigenous, and marginalized communities. We need strong synergy between young people, service providers, policymakers, and especially the media, who can help not only expose harmful practices, but also amplify stories of youth leadership, resistance, and hope. Because real change doesn't just come from policy, it also comes from stories and who gets to tell them. Thank you. I give it back to you, Shubha.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now we will hear from Marianne about the situation in Kenya regarding progress on SDG 3 and SDG 5 among the youth. Marianne, over to you.
Thank you so much. In regards to the progress that has been made in the country, first off, I'll say the maternal and child health improvement. We've been able to see that there is skilled birth attendants surging from 41% in 2003 to 89% in 2022. And this shows there's enhancement on access of childbirth services. And also when you look at such improvement, it also gets to show that has also given a ripple effect in reduced mother to child HIV transmission in our country. Another progress that we've been able to realize in our country is modern contraceptive use. In 2003, young people were not, even young women were not given the opportunity to choose whether they want to get children, even the number of spacing and all that. But right now, with the kind of investment that has been put in SRHR and even the WGNRR have been seeing their support in our country, that has really ensured that young people clearly understand what contraceptive use is, and even the myths and misconceptions, as much as we are not where we want, but I would say that there's been a lot of progress in that. And then another progress is decline in FGM, the female genital mutilation. So in 2003, it was at 38%. Right now in our country is at 15%. 15% is not a very good performing rate, but we can clearly see that donors and even the community has been on the forefront to ensure that these FGM ends in our country. In regards to HIV and even ARC, the viral suppression in our country, At the moment, there is the HIV prevalence in our country is at 41%. Compared to how it was before, it was really high. But that gets to show you that young people are taking their treatment, young people are adhering to their treatment, and their viral suppression is performing really well. The last thing that I will say, because of my time, there has been representation of young women in political level. I might not be able to say the number, but in this 2022, there's a county specifically that has a female governor, that has a female senator, and so many female member of parliament. So on part of gender inclusivity, that is one area that we will say as a country we have performed really well. And even having the first female justice in our country, that was an history that was really made in our country. And we've at least been able to see huge progress from the representation. Maybe just one last bit. Kenya is one of the countries that committed to the Abuja Declaration. In 2013, the financial year 2013 and financial year 2014, a percentage that was allocated in the budget for health was 5.5%. But in 2020 and 2021, we saw an increase to 11%. According to the Abuja Declaration, the investment in health should be at least 15%. So we are not yet at 15%, but being at 11% means that there is somehow political goodwill for our leaders to ensure that young people live and even its own citizen can access healthcare services. Not to say that we are not experiencing any form of gap, we are, but I would really vouch that our country continues to ensure that there is a lot of investment towards health. Yeah, thank you, Nova.
Thank you, Marianne. Thank you for sharing at least the positive strides which are being made in the right direction. They may be small strides, but they are there. Yes, Monalisa, can you please share about Uganda?
Thank you so much. I tend to shy away from the progress that has been made so far in Uganda, basing on what is happening not only in my community but also with the young population.
Can I
But
interrupt,
needless to
Monalisa?
say,
Can I interrupt, please? Can we see your face?
oh my God. Now you can't see my face. I'm in a place that network is not that good.
Okay, fine. Please continue. Sorry for the interruption.
Okay.
Yes.
I would say Uganda has tried to really see to it that there is progress made within SDG-3 and 5, but needless to say, there's also been not good progress made when it comes to various communities like my own, like somebody that sits and works at the Uganda National Trans Forum, and it's a representation body for youth like myself in areas to do with gender equality. That hasn't been a progress made at all. And so for me, when we speak about progress, it makes me think of progress for who and what kinds of youths, right? And also the selection of youths that are progressing in Uganda. So needless to say as well is to say that Uganda has made amazing strides actually when it comes to the literate levels of youth people. We see to it that Uganda has one of the largest population in the world, and it's really growing to be very lucrative and very entrepreneurial in the way they do this work. So they've been given an opportunity to live to their fullest of selves because of SDG 3 and 5 that sort of gives an ambience for when you're having good health for some people, is that they can then be able to come into those spaces where they can be to their full potential and be productive in the ways that they do this work. But a lot needs to be done and a lot needs to be improved in the ways that young people like myself continuously get to engage, even in public spaces where these discussions are happening. You will see to it that there are certain youths left out of conversations that actually do affect their livelihood. how do you have conversations for the youth and you only concentrate on the youth within the binary sector? So for me, when it comes to progress made, I would say there is something that has been done, but for a particular sect of the youth, and most of us that do not conform to a certain sector of the youth, of male and female and all these things, have been left out of these discussions. I would say the educational levels have been improved and bolstered to be able to accommodate youth, to be able to learn, to come to spaces that are friendly, to come to spaces that are able for them to live and thrive and do youth kind of things, right? And so to have a space that accommodates you and wants to see you grow, I think that is something that the Ugandan government has done tremendously well. We have so many youth corners and youth spaces in Uganda that have been really created for the youth to be able to engage with one another, to come into conversation and collaborate with each other, and even have this MTN program that is a digital literacy program that is training youth on how to use digital platforms for entrepreneurship, for access to information when it comes to SR and HR, and for people to, and for the youth to actually be engaged in spaces where they can feel like they belong to a community as well. And so for those spaces that have been made liberate within government, I would accord them that A+ in that. And also Uganda has really very good laws and policies when it comes to protecting the youth. But what the challenge is that what is written on paper does not really align what is done. So you can have a beautiful policy, but not well streamlined and working for the youth out there. So yes, there's been a lot of progress made, but still a lot more has to be done for really the youth to tap into SDG-3 and what it means for them by the time we get to 2030. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing at least that there are now safe spaces for the youth. That is an important step. Nishant, can you please share about the situation in Nepal, particularly in the context of people with disabilities?
Thank you so much, Shova, for giving me this platform, and also thankful to all the partners. So, as talking about the progress on good health and well-being in Nepal, so I have just working with the persons with disabilities, and they're having some of the progresses, commendable progresses on youth health and well-being. So, especially in reducing maternal and child mortality, expanding institutional deliveries, improving HIV responses. So, as according to some of the researches in 2024, there's like institutional delivery has reached 79.4% is maternal mortality, dropped to 151 per 1 lakh live births, and there is a notable increase in access to antenatal care and immunization services. And also the most important progress which we have done in our countries, like comprehensive sexuality education is now integrated into Nepal's national curriculum, offering young people for it's a great win to the great awareness of SRHR. And we have also seen improvements in HIV responses, like new infections are declining and more young people living with HIV are on treatment phase. So these are the few of the progresses which are made on our country. And beneath these statistics, mental health issues among youth are rising, with the suicidal rates increasing on 18.1 per 1 lakh people. And it's a Nepal healthcare remains underfunded with 4.62%. The national budget allocated to health well below WHO's recommended 10%. Out of health expenditure has increased to 54.2%, creating financial stress on already to the marginalized and vulnerable youths. So as now I'm adding to the some of the experiences which I gain it working in YPR Nepal, and also the persons with disabilities. So as these all are all the progresses are being made to the people, to the young people, but I'm basically working with the deaf young people. So they are having very proportionate, like disproportionate barriers. Health services are still being lacking of sign language interpreters. The staffs who don't know the, like, who don't have the good ideas about the sign languages and all physical infrastructure. So these are the few of the barriers that has been faced by the deaf young people. And SRHR education for deaf youth is now extremely limited. But from our organization, from YPR Nepal and Disabilities 2030, where now we are using the progresses like peer-to-peer education. So from that way, we try to like make them empower them for the learning the things about their body, about their rights, and all those things through their peer education. So few of the things that is being noticed in our country. So the urban rural divide also, like rural youth still struggle with access to basic health services like safe abortion, HIV prevention, and mental health support are limited and also stigmatized. So as a few of the things about like SDG-3, and I'd also like to add the progresses on SDG-5, like gender equality and rights. So as in programs targeting like the child marriage and gender-based violence are gaining ground, and there's a gradual reduction in adolescent birth rates. The use of tax incentives for like a few of the things progresses made in like giving the 33.1% parliamentarian seats and the land registration tax free. So this kind of progress is made by the government. But there is still having a problem of child marriages and gender-based violence. So many young women, especially young girls with disabilities, LGBTQI plus communities, and from the indigenous communities as well, they are facing the many kind of things like barriers and all. And according to the data, like recent data, like 32.8% of girls are still married before 18, and adolescent birth rate is 71.2% per thousand, and gender-based violence is also continues to arise. So both offline and online way. And we have worked directly with young persons with disabilities to ensure that they have access to SRHR information in sign language and leadership spaces, as well as community support. So yet across the country, gender sensitive services, particularly for youth with disabilities, and digital gender-based violence is is in increasing phase as well. And with few protection in places, reporting system are often inaccessible and somehow in unresponsive way in some of the region as well. So these are the few of the things that is being listened, and the stories shared by a few of the persons with disabilities as well. So I think that's all for now. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Thank you, Nishant. And the good thing is, it's nice to hear that Nepal has included compulsory sexuality education in the school curriculum. That's a great step forward. Noor, Fatima, now we are keen to listen to you.
Hi, thank you for this important question. Before I begin, I want to acknowledge that today is International Youth Day, a day when we are reminded that young people are not just the leader of tomorrow, we are the leaders of today. In the Rohingya refugee communities, especially where I work closely, the progress on health well-being and SDG-5 has been deeply uneven and fragile. There have been small but significant steps forward. We now see more young people speaking up on our awareness sessions and spaces like this one, giving us the chance to finally share our lived experiences. But the truth is, this progress is slow and far from equal. It often doesn't reach the most vulnerable, especially young Rohingya women and girls. For many of us, health and well being are not just delayed rights, but they are denied rights. Most refugee girls grow up without any structured knowledge of their body's reproductive health or mental well being. Menstruation is still treated as something shameful. Mental health is ignored, and our conversation about gender based violence are almost non existent. It's not because we don't care, it's just because the system around us never cared about us. Even when healthcare services exist nearby, the fear of being turned away, the lack of documents, the language barriers keeps many from seeking help. Pregnant women often go through their entire pregnancy without ever seeing a doctor. Young people suffer silently from preventable illness, and unpreventable just keep increases. And when you live in an environment where daily survival is the focus, well being becomes a distant dream. When we talk about SDG 5, gender equality, we must remember it's not only about having equal opportunities, but also protection, education, and leadership for women and girls. Yet, Rohingya refugee women are still not treated as people worthy of full protection or participation. Despite all these challenges, there are sparks of change, and those sparks are often lit by young people themselves. Through the Rohingya Women's Collaborative Network, we have created safe spaces where girls can openly discuss without fear or shame. We started trauma healing circles and peer-to-peer support networks, so no young woman has to carry her pain alone. We launched digital literacy programs in 2020, helping girls connect to online education, health resources, and advocacy opportunities. We are also working on training young Rohingya women as community health advocates who share knowledge on hygiene, nutrition, mental health, menstruation, education, and health in their own neighborhoods. These are not just programs. These are acts of survival, resilience, and hope. And they are women-led and Rohingya women-led, run mostly by our women who survive all these struggles and sustain without the proper funding or recognition what they deserve. As a Rohingya woman, I want the world to see us not only as victim of conflicts, but as the leader of change. We carry these stories and the solution and the strategies, but we need you to trust us, to resource us, and to work with us as equals. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Noor, and we are with you, and we see you all as leaders of change, definitely. Uh, Pooja is our next panelist. Yes, Pooja, over to you.
Hi.
Hello.
Good afternoon, everyone, and I'm very honored to be part of this meeting. So, in India, significant strive to has been made in advancing SDG-3 and SDG-5 among the youth living with HIV, especially through the peer-led community-based intervention. So, initially, social and self-stigma several impacted health outcome and leading to poor ART adherence and mental health challenges. However, through the peer-led platform like a youth-led voices, young people, especially young women, being access psychological support, building their capacity and gaining the confidential and disclosure their HIV status. So just I want to share one of the case. So one of our colleague, she is a 22-year-old and newly infected with the HIV. She not able to disclose their HIV status uh, due to self-stigma and social stigma. She connected because we know self-stigma very higher in especially young women and social stigma because HIV is connected our like character. So that's why stigma is very high. So she connected with our youth network through the 5-day positive speaker training, and she empowered also get the peer support and build the confident. After the training, she able to talk and she disclose their HIV status within the family. So this led to better ART adherence and improved mental health and stigma-free environment at the home. So this is the come SDG 3. And second is the very short. So I just said my how can come with the SDG 5, like a gender equality and rights. So just I want to share my story. I am belonging very small village. I was connected with the network when I 20-year-old. So as a joined as a outreach worker, I held the multiple position like a counselor, like a PC, and like a state officer, and then I came as a national youth coordinator and general secretary in the NCPI plus. So this journey is over the 10-year reflection of the path, empowerment and resilience in transformation made possible through the consistent peer-led support and encouragement of my family. So reflect the essence of the SDG-5. Such a empowerment has been made possible through the strong PLHIV network in youth network, mentorship and peer-led system. It's a not one-time process, it's a continued process to empower the young women and the youth community. So thank you so much, Shobha ma'am. You created such a nice platform to talk about the especially young women and youth living with HIV. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, Pooja. Thank you for being with us. And I would like you to stay a little longer for the rest part of the panel discussion. Now we have Sonam from Bhutan. Sonam, please share your insights, the progress made in Bhutan.
Greetings everyone. I am Sonam Wangmo and I'm from Bhutan. So I will be talking from Bhutan's perspective. So in Bhutan, we implement SDG, Sustainable Development Goals, but we align it with our country's value. So our country's core value, it is gross national happiness. So while we develop the country, we also include emotional, spiritual, and cultural well-being. So yeah, that's how we implement SDG in Bhutan. And over the years, Bhutan has had many initiatives where youths are being the main topic or the main subject. They have participated in it, and they were part of the decision making process and everything. And as His Majesty the Fifth King of Bhutan, our king, he states, the future of our nation, it lies with our youths. So, as a young person myself, I firmly believe youths are the backbone of a nation. And I'll talk about one example or one organization to be specific. It's YPR Bhutan, a youth-led organization under YPR EP. They have been conducting many initiatives across Bhutan based on mental illness, based on SRHR, and a lot more. And one initiative they have taken is the Bhutan Youth National Forum in SDGs, where a lot of people, a lot of young minds from different backgrounds, different regions came together to discuss issues on discuss issues, and they had their own opinion and they discussed how they can overcome it. And I would like to point out one issue that is happening worldwide, that is healthcare. So globally, healthcare is something that is not free, right? It's not free, and in Bhutan, it is free. And I think uh, we as Bhutanese are very blessed with that fact. And because of that, we youths, me as a young person or anyone, they can access to healthcare without having any financial burden or without any issue. But still, even though the healthcare is free, in remote areas of Bhutan, there's still stigmatization and there's still lack of awareness despite having a good healthcare system. And to fill those gaps, we also have organizations. We have organizations called the Bhutan Youth Development Fund, the YDF, and they have been doing wonderful works in filling those gaps. And there's also another issue which I would like to point out. Teenage
We cannot hear you, Sonam. We cannot hear you. I think there is something wrong with the connectivity.
one called Renew and Nurture supporting those teenagers with financial financial be it, uh, psychological.
Perhaps if
We
you can
can
switch off
create
your
a
video.
peaceful world for the youths ahead of us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sonam. We couldn't hear the last part. I think there was some connectivity problem at your end, but thank you very much. Now we have Supriya. And Supriya, can you please share what is the progress, particularly in the context of the indigenous people?
Hello, namaste. Indigenous greetings to everyone. Before starting my speech, I would like to confirm my connection first. Am I audible to you, ma'am? Because it's raining. It's a rainy season here, and I am from the hilly region, so internet is not working properly today. I'm sorry about that.
Okay, fine. We will
All
hear
right.
the voice at least. We'll be happy with
Okay. All right. So I'll start. I'll start from SDG-5. So increased representations of indigenous youth, women in youth council, federation, and local government structures, partly due to constitutional quotas and capacity building programs. And indigenous young women are increasingly participating in decision-making processes, and there is a growing emphasis on combating gender-based violence. Educations and economic empowerment programs have also helped bridge the gender gap. Gender-based violence awareness, indigenous youth organizations are actively educating communities on GBV, early marriage and consent, and combining legal literacy with cultural sustainability. At the regional level, youth leaders in feminist movements, indigenous youth leaders across Asia are challenging gender norms, advocating for land rights, bodily autonomy, and intergenerational equality. Policy shifts toward intersectionality. Regional institutions are slowly integrating intersectional approaches, recognizing that indigenous youth face unique gender challenges. Stronger gender inclusive youth networks, indigenous girls, and LGBTQ plus youth are becoming more visible in regional dialogues, especially under the platforms like AIYP and other youth forums. And AIYP is advocating for policies that promote gender equality, ensuring that indigenous youth women have equal access to research and opportunities. Also, menstrual health improvements, youth lead campaigns have broken to taboos around menstrual, promoting dignity, kids, and safe school environments for girls in rural and indigenous regions or indigenous areas. Talking about SDG-3, first thing first, I would like to highlight the important, the point for us. Traditional healing is being recognized as complementary health knowledge. That is the really, good point for us. And also mental health is gaining visibility in indigenous youth dialogues, initiating conversation on trauma, identity, crisis, and emotional well-being. Also, mental health awareness, increasing youth-led campaigns, and NGOs are promoting mental health educations. Community-based health outreach has expanded in indigenous communities, mobile clinics, and local health volunteers, often including indigenous youth, are helping bridge the gap in remote areas. But culturally grounded approaches are still lacking in indigenous communities, especially the rise of indigenous youth health advocacy. Networks like AIYP have begun influencing regional health policies with culturally sensitive perspective. Digital health tools increase use of the telemedicines and health apps in rural areas, in bridging the gap for indigenous and remote youth population. Cross-border collaboration on traditional medicine regional dialogues is growing around integrating indigenous knowledge systems into public health, for example, health medicine and healing practices. Also, vaccination and sexual health educations, school-based program have improved, as our previous speaker mentioned earlier about it. So I don't want to elaborate on it. So yeah, that's it for now. Over to you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Supriya. Just a reminder to participants to please type in your questions or comments in the chat box if you have any. Now we go on to the second round of the panel discussion, and we will start with Supriya and move in the reverse order now. So we have seen that there has been progress. All the panelists have spoken about the progress, however sketchy and small it may be, but which has been made. Now the question is, what are your recommendations to deliver on SDG-3 and SDG-5 for youth in the context of your country or region? Are there any best practices that can be scaled up, or what are basically your recommendations? So we will start from Supriya. Supriya, over to you again.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. So best practices to scale up SDG-3 mobile and community-based health clinics in remote indigenous areas, bring essential health services directly to the indigenous villages using youth-led mobile health units and telemedicine, integration of traditional medicine with modern health system, respect and recognize indigenous healing knowledge by creating legal frameworks to work alongside biomedical care, youth-led mental health and well-being cycles, establish peer support groups where indigenous youth can talk about mental health, trauma, cultural identity, or land-based healings. I would like to recommend or suggest. So this is the point I.
Okay. Thank you.
Really thinking about. I was thinking about earlier.
Yes. Okay.
Increase the. Oh, am I audible?
Yes. You are audible.
Right. So increase investment in mental health due to the rising rates of depression, suicide, anxiety, and whatnot. It is necessary to provide additional resources and training. Youth health insurance programs. There is a need. Youth need to introduce an accessible and affordable health insurance programs for youth, and especially training for social workers who are close to youth in, for instance, schools, colleges, and communities. I think we provide health-related counseling training so that they can deliver the core masses. And talking about SDG-5, leadership academics for indigenous young women and girls, train indigenous young women in public speaking, governments, and advocacy to raise their participation in decision-making spaces, community storytelling to revive gender-respectful indigenous values, use cultural storytelling and intergenerational dialogues to promote traditional systems that honored gender balance before colonial disruptions, safe spaces, and local responses. Networks against gender-based violence, create youth-led safe spaces and local community with elders and youth to prevent and respond to violence and discrimination in indigenous communities. Strict implementation of policy to end child marriage and gender-based violence and whatnot. There is a law exists, right? But there are weakness in implementation. To improve this community level monitoring and awareness are necessary. Include men in the gender equality movement, promote the idea that gender equality is not just a women's issue, and make young men active partners in this effort. Encouraging youth participation in women's leadership, encouragement, and opportunities should be provided to increase the participation of young women in political, social, and economic leadership. Gender sensitivity training among youth at all levels from schools to the broader society should receive training on gender equality. I believe so, ma'am. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you for very pertinent recommendations which you have made, Supriya. Sonam, what are your recommendations for your country or for the youth in your country?
Hello again.
Yes.
So I have three very simple recommendations on delivering and implementing SDG-3 and 5 in Bhutan. Though it might seem simple to other nations, it could be a big thing for Bhutan. So the number one recommendations I would have is using media and advocating using media as we're all online, as we all know the powerful role of media it plays in our daily lives. If we could use media more and use it in good manner instead of subjecting people to other things, we can use it to advocate for SRHR, mental illness, and gender equality. And the second recommendation I would have is integrating technology and AI into building systems that can help in accessing informations or healthcare or any services you want. So if we built a system or an AI where you can just type something and just say you want help for this, right? If you type something like that and you get a reply and you get connected with someone else, I think that makes the whole procedure very easier. And this can also help the youths as I'll continue my third suggestion, as it can help the youth because we can create a youth-led management team. Youths know what are the hot topics right now. What can we bring those systems to the level right now? So we can input youth into those systems and managing them into creating them. So yeah, those are my three suggestions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Sonam. Pooja, what are your suggestions?
Thank you, ma'am, once again. Just I want to share one of my best practices, like peer-led platform, like a youth-led voices. So initiative like a youth-led voices have a proven active in creating safe space, youth-friendly space where young people living with HIV can access psychological support, build a leadership skill, and overcome the stigma. These platforms enable to honest conversation and around the HIV, especially mental health, gender-based violence, and the self-stigma contributing to both SDG-3 and SDG-5. So that is some best practices. I have two recommendations, especially institutionalization peer-led mental health clinic include structured peer-led counseling and mental health support services within the community-led center to address the psychological impact and living with the HIV among the youth. So definitely, we shared our story during the first conversation. So self-stigma in mental health is very higher within the woman. So it will be good if you have a mental health clinic. And second, have a recommendation, gender sensitive program, design a specific intervention for a young woman and gender diverse youth, ensure they receive leadership opportunity, SRHR education, and the protection from the gender-based violence and discrimination. So we have two recommendation. Thank you so much, Sova ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, now we have our next speaker, who is Noor Fatima. Yes.
Hi again.
Yes, yes.
I wanted to say a few things and also suggest a few more things.
Yes.
As a Rohingya woman, a refugee and a leader within the Rohingya Women's Collaborative Network, a youth-led movement working across Indonesia, Thailand, and Malaysia. I have seen the firsthand what happens when youth are genuinely included and what happens when we're not. For too long, youth engagement has been treated like a checkbox. We're invited to panels to share our stories, but not to shape the policies. We're praised for our resilience, but denied the resources to actually lead change. And yet, the reality is this: youth are not waiting for someone to give us a voice. We already have voices. What we need is the world to listen. And when I say youth, I don't just mean those with passports and citizenships. I mean refugee youth, stateless youth, and displaced youth like us. The one who have lived experience of broken system and who understand the urgency of fixing them because our life depends on it. So, how do we move from symbolic inclusions to meaningful empowerments? The first will be a direct investment in youth-led initiatives. It's not enough to fund big agencies and hope the benefits trickle down to us. We need funding that goes directly to the hands of young leaders who are already doing the work, often unpaid in unsafe conditions and with limited tools. Through the Rohingya Women's Collaborative Network, we have created the programs which we are talking about now. These programs are powerful, but they survive mostly entirely on volunteering labor. Imagine how much more we could have done if we had stable resources, safe spaces, and the trust to scale our solutions. The second would be real policies influence, not just participations. Governments, UN agencies, and NGOs must consult youth regularly, not as just token gestures once a year. Refugee and marginalized youth should be involved in every stage, from designing health and gender programs to monitoring budgets to evaluating impact. Our insights must be reflected in policies, reports, and funding priorities, not just as event photos. And the third will be accessible education pathways. Many refugees, like me, dream of becoming doctors, therapists, legal advocates, or gender specialists. The professionals our community desperately needs. But without legal documents, scholarship, these dreams are blocked, and we need alternative pathways for that. And fourth and the last one is the change the narrative. The world must stop looking at refugees' youth only through the eyes and the lens of vulnerability. We're not just survivors, we are strategists, innovators, and leaders. Every woman I work with in the network carries not just a story of pain, but a plan for change. But too often, those plans die in our notebook because the world does not trust us to implement them. So here's my challenge. If you truly believe in SDG-5, in the youth empowerment, in health and gender equality, then stop standing above us, stand beside us, and share the decision-making table, fund our leadership, and protect our spaces. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Noor, for your very, very powerful recommendations and powerful words as well. Nishant.
Once again, thank you so much, ma'am. So I would like to share a few of the best practices, and before going to the practices and recommendation, I would like to start with one of the small quotes. That is like, if you truly want to deliver on the sustainable development goals, then the inclusion of young persons with disabilities it is not just important; it is essential. So I will start through it. And as talking about Nepal, Nepal has made some progresses, but the persons with disabilities still face enormous barriers when it comes to accessing even the most basic health services. So at from YPR Nepal, we have developed inclusive peer education programs where deaf youth lead SRHR sessions in Nepali Sign Language using tools like body mapping, visual storytelling, and role plays. Basically these sessions don't just inform them but also they empower them and will give them the full potential and rights to share their knowledge through their community and the society. We have also established mental health sharing circle led by deaf facilitators where young people express explore emotions through art, science, and stories. And we have also created accessible SRHR resources, including manuals in sign languages, and so we are also working on the visual formats, and also for making them easier, not just for in Nepal but across the Asia Pacific region. So these are few of the progresses which we have made it, and a few of the recommendation for the SDG goals 3. That is, the first one is making health facilities accessible to all. This means that sign language interpreters, braille and visual sign languages, and staff trained in disability sensitive care. So that was my first recommendation. And another one is investment in mental health services that are trauma informed and youth inclusive, and also make sure those services reach rural and disabled youth, not just the urban privileged area only, but also reach through the rural areas, and for the disabled persons with hearing disabilities and all the disabilities persons. And my last recommendation for the SDG Goal 3 is like CSC programs, which we are working on it and will be delivered in multiple accessible formats through sign languages and audio for blind youths, and cultural adapted visuals for youth with intellectual disabilities. And as talking about moving on the SDG 5, let me be clear about like gender equality cannot be achieved if young women and persons with disabilities are left behind. So in our programs, we are always being adding the deaf young women on sharing the session on bodily autonomy, consent, and GVV responses through using the comics, role play, and creating the contents like as drama perform. And another one is TBT, theater based training techniques. So that is an interactive drama procedure as well. And these all are the things, leadership boot camps we always do through like how can we reduce this gender based violence through in the circle of persons with disabilities. So few of the recommendation for the SDG goal 5 is like disability must be mainstreamed into all gender equality policies, not as a side note but as a core principle. And the next one is GBB services like hotlines, shelters, legal aid must include sign language interpretation, visual support, and free from illicit attitudes, because they are having, if they are not in the positive attitude, the survivors won't be able to share their problems, share their work. So that is the most important thing. And another one is like schools must deliver inclusive education on gender and rights. And any youth-led organization, or we CSOs always have to think the campaigns that should be the intersectional, and we need to focus on all those areas, and local youth SDG monitoring controls. And as I want to at last, I want to say a few things. Like one of the youth leaders said to me, we don't need sympathy, we need tools, language, and space. That's exactly what we are working for, and what we are asking you all to join us for in delivering. So SDG 3 and 5, we are going to work on it. And once again, thank you so much, Shobha ma'am, for this opportunity.
Thank you very much for your very valid suggestions. Monalisa, what are your suggestions? Or
Thank you. I have
yes.
Yes, I have two recommendations. Of one is really a reflection, and it's so hard to recommend after six powerful people speaking, but I'll say something regardless. I think our governments should be able to reflect back on why SDG 3 and 5 were thought about in the very first place, right? Because we know about it that health and gender equality are not optional. They are prerequisites for peace, for prosperity, for sustainability. And I think even in those rooms where we were not when the SDGs were developed, is that they looked at the climate and they saw how unjust it was. And that's why the Sustainable Development Goals made sense. And so I think our governments should go back to revisiting, why did we even rectify or say yes to these Sustainable Development Goals? Because we needed a just world. We can't do a choose and pick on who gets to live, on who gets to be dignified, on who gets to be killed, on who gets to have a simple basic thing as health care. So I think we should go back to that revisitation. The other thing is that always say that within my community that can I be heard?
Yes, yes, we can hear you. Yes.
Okay, there was so much
Yes.
silence. I thought I was speaking to myself.
Mhm.
And the other thing that makes sense to me in terms of recommendation is that youth in all our diversities should be included. And I think Noor spoke about it. We can no longer be tokens within a system. If you are not going to be with me, to stand with me, please do not invite me in spaces where you're just going to use me as a youth. Our policies that we bring on board should be respected. We should be seen as respectful citizens within our countries, because then when you're a differently abled person, if you're diverse and in all these ways, there's a sort of a choose and tick on who gets to live and who gets to be trashed away by our systems. We are tired of systems and our governments that do kill youth, that do not bend to the gender binary. We need to be respected as a whole. We all matter. We all pay taxes. We need respect. We need to be listened to, and we need to be loved. I remind our governments, love the youth in all their diversities, love the youth in general. Love is the cementing factor in all that we do. If you don't love us, you will not see us. What is not seen is not heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Monalisa. And we are there with you at least. And we love you all in all your gender diversity, at least from our side. Yes. Marianne from Kenya.
Thank you so much, Monalisa. That was a very powerful statement.
Yes. Yes.
For me, it's high time that people have very honest conversations that are very objective towards ensuring that we're improving the health and well-being of young people. A lot of time conversation about sexual reproductive health and rights, about HIV, about key population has always been swept under the carpet. So what that means is we are limiting people from being full citizens of a country. Even as part of the International Youth Day theme, it says to localize youth access for the SDGs and beyond. And this also highlights the importance of youth-led initiatives and activities sustainable development at the local level and beyond. I was having a conversation with someone yesterday, and they told me that when they hear of investing in young people, they feel like that is a risk. Why? Because you're giving a young person who, in their opinion, is not capable enough to handle resources. A lot of time, young people, actually, peer-led interventions has proven to be working. Community-led interventions has proven that with time, we are seeing a decrease in new HIV infections. We are seeing young people uptaking services, HIV services, sexual reproductive health services. But unfortunately, that is not something that most people are funding. So if we remove financial and structural access barriers for such resources to ensure that the community-led organizations are able to implement interventions that directly impact, and then we will be going to the right direction. Probably almost not the last thing. Something that was mentioned was on the youth-friendly services and youth-friendly centers. This is something that is not there or it's limited. In our country now, we are seeing integration of HIV services. So that means that the youth-friendly centers that were there to provide HIV-friendly services to young people is not there. So what does that mean? It means that young people will not be able to have viral suppression, and even that will lead to an effect of increased HIV infection in our country. So if as part of ending AIDS by 2030, we are not very honest with what integration really means to young people, then it means we are going to lose a lot of young people. In our country, we have very beautiful health policy, very beautiful, and unfortunately, it ends immediately after dissemination. So there's not usually a plan on implementing the beautiful policies that has been developed. So as part of best practice is to ensure that the government are implementing the same policies that they're looking for resources to develop. And then also on the SDG-5, it is important for even donors, for even countries to prioritize gender transformative approaches that seeks to ensure that there is shift in the retrogressive cultural and social norms. All these, when you mention sexual reproductive health, when you mention HIV, when you mention key population, all these are just affected by the cultural and the social norms that people think about such conversation. So if we have a shift on the kind of conversations or even the kind of approaches that we put to ensure that every other person, regardless of their sexual orientation, is able to access service. Maybe my last quote, because of time, is to say young people are not just the face of the HIV epidemic. We are the force that can end it. When you invest in our health, you empower our choices and trust our leadership, we will not just save lives, we will secure our future, both our future and our present. Thank you so much, and over to you. Did you hear me? You've gone silent. Monalisa, did you hear me?
Yes, we heard
Yes,
you.
I did. I did.
I think we lost Shoba. Oh. Shoba, can you hear me? I think I will take over the cup, unfortunately. Magdalene, did you provide your best practice?
Yes, I will. Thank you so much, Marianne. So, before I'm sharing from our region and from Indonesia, I would like to say a huge shout out to all amazing panelists. And I saw also some comments on the chat box from the participants. Your sharings, your stories, and energy, truths, really powerful and hit home. And thanks for keeping it real and giving us a lot to think about and act on. So your voices made this space meaningful. And now I want to share the best practices that work in our region, especially also in Indonesia. So across our region, young people are already leading meaningful change for SDG 3 and 5, and we know what works. And some of them have been mentioned from the previous speakers, but I also will share from our experiences. So the first one is youth-led peer education and outreach. Mobile clinics with youth educators are bringing SRHR services directly to underserved communities, especially those in rural or conservative areas. And our member associations, peer educators, are trusted messengers, offering confidential counseling and referrals, especially for a young LGBTQ youth and also young women. And second is comprehensive sexuality education. So young people are not only recipients of CSE, as we heard from the other speakers. They are also co-designing and co-facilitating it, whether it's in classroom or in social media platforms. Youth-led digital learning and campaigns are making SRHR education more relatable and accessible. And third is youth representation in decision making. So young people are shaping the policies that affect them. Through youth advisory boards and leadership roles in the member associations that we have in APPF ECR, they are collaborating with governments and NGOs to ensure youth voices are not just heard, but also acted on. Fourth, safe spaces and mental health programs. Youth-friendly spaces are being created to talk openly about mental health and gender-based violence. These spaces build trust, over support, and break harmful stigmas. And from these best practices that we have done, and we are still on the progress on it, we understand that to build on this progress, we need to take bold and concrete steps. And these are our recommendations. First is to fund and scale youth-led approaches. Youth-led initiatives are impactful, and we know that. And with stronger investment can scale and sustain their work even further. Second, strengthen CSE and access to SRHR services. Policies are not enough. Young people, especially in rural or conservative areas, still face stigma and barriers. We need to ensure real, safe, and stigma-free access to services and information. Third is strengthen policies that support and protect youths. We need more robust and stronger youth-centered policies that uphold young people's rights and remove systemic barriers to health and gender equality. For example, like enforcing the legal age of marriage in Indonesia, but it must be matched with stricter implementation and the removal of marriage dispensations that it still allow child marriage, and allowing adolescents in Thailand to access SRHR services without needing parental or spousal consent. These changes protect young people's rights and promote safer, more equitable access to care. Fourth is make gender equality everyone's agenda. Gender equality is not just a girl's issue. We must engage boys and men early, shift harmful mindsets, and foster allyships in families, schools, and communities. And include the most marginalized, from young people with disabilities, LGBTQ youth, to those in conflict-affected areas. Inclusive solutions must be the standard, not the exception. So together we combat the barriers, understand the needs of youths, provide support for young people with disabilities, youth-friendly approaches, and also combating the language barriers. And finally, we must stop seeing young people as mere targets and start recognizing them as partners in schools, clinics, and policy-making spaces. True progress requires synergy across all sectors to close policy gaps and confront the barriers that hold us back. That's why we call on governments, donors, institutions, media, and everyone to step up to fund, support, and scale youth-led innovations. Because when youth are trusted and supported, we don't wait for change, we create it. Youth leadership isn't in the future, it's not the future, it's already here. Thank you.
Thank you. And yes, youth leadership is there already. And that is why we are trying to just support and gather that and make it stronger. Thank you very much. Faith? We want to hear from you, yes.
Sorry, I have to make my... Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, yes.
Thank you so much. This has been an amazing webinar, hearing from young people from different countries. And trust me, I want to say thank you, and I'm proud of every young person on this call, whether you're a woman, you're a man, or you're a trans person. So to all the diverse people here, thank you for joining the call. So from my end, I'm going to give 3 recommendations from my own end. So one is for young people. Young people need to start taking ownership of their health. In as much as we want to see how we can rely on the government, to see how we can rely on donors, we have to start coming together. Because when we come together, we tend to go far. But when you walk alone, you go fast, but you're not going to go far. So youth-led network needs to come together to harmonize their programs to see how best they can collaborate. So collaboration matters a lot when it comes to youth-led programs. Secondly is to government. So in order to talk about sustaining finance for health, the government needs to take ownership of their citizens' health to see how they can increase funding for health. Imagine making funding for health 5% of the national budget here in Nigeria. It's really poor. So I encourage government to see how they can increase funding for health and also see how best they can trust young people with their money. because they keep saying that, oh, young people cannot do things, oh, when you give them funding, they will not succeed. But we've seen young people driving change. We are not the future, we are the present. And trust me, we have been doing great jobs here in Nigeria, Youth-led Network. And lastly, to the UN partners who came together to ensure that this SDG-3 and 5 are currently working in different countries. I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to all of you, because without you, especially here in low and middle income country, in Africa, I don't know what we would have done without your support. So first of all, I want to say thank you. But lastly, I also want to give a recommendation that you actually need to harmonize your program, because sometimes we see duplication of efforts. So imagine UNICEF is doing something and UNFPA in the same country is repeating that same thing. So it would be great if they can come together to look at the country priorities and see how best they can harmonize their intervention rather than duplicate efforts. And also to see how they can partner with young people, stand with young people, because when the government see that the UN system and other partners are supporting young people, trust me, they will not easily tear us down. So we need to come together in order for us to go far, be it the government, be it different relevant stakeholders, young people. We need to see how we can sit down together to talk about our issues without being scared. I believe that when we are united, we are going to go far. And I know that this is not just going to end here beyond the webinar. I know that you're going to use social media to create change, because on the 12th of August, it's International Youth Day, and it's talking about young people using technology. I believe that we are the present and we're also the future. So we have to use technology to let the world know that, yes, we are not just, when it comes to number, we are there, but when it comes to impact, we want to show the world what we can do. And also we need to hold ourselves accountable, because it's only when you hold yourself accountable as a young person will the government or the donor be able to give you that money. So thank you so much for joining, and I'm really happy to be part of this meeting. Thank you, CNS, for calling all of us together. I know you love us, and we love you for thinking about young people. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day.
And thank you very much. And we love you too, in equal measure, greater measure. And it has been a great session with our such young firebrand youth leaders. And we are placing a lot of expectations on you, because, always those people who work, they are the ones who are at the receiving end. Those who don't work and sit back, nobody bothers about them. But once you are there in the field, I think you have a lot of responsibilities on your shoulders. But we are not done as yet, because there is a request from Varuni Thongprasaret from Thailand. And I think it's a valid request that please ask the young people to give us their slogan in language of their choice on Youth Day and Indigenous Peoples Day. So would our youth leaders, the panelists, please give their slogan or give their message for the Youth Day? Faith, can we start with you? There's no order, but I would like each one of you to please give your statement.
Okay, so
Yes.
a slogan for me,
Yes.
I would say we are the impact. So young people are the impact. So whether we like it or not, we are the impact. We are the change. So without young people, trust me, nothing will happen. So happy International Youth Day. Love you, everyone on this call. Bye.
Thank you. Magdalena.
Yes, thank you. I'll be using the same slogan as I have before, but in Bahasa Indonesia. So, karena ketika kaum muda dipercaya dan didukung, kita tidak lagi menunggu perubahan, kita menciptakannya. Kepemimpinan kaum muda bukanlah masa depan, ia sudah ada di sini. Dan jika ini tidak merata, maka ketimpangan akan terus terjadi. So happy International Youth Day and happy Indigenous Day.
Thank you. Marian?
I think, yes, mine will just be the same as what I said before. Young people are not just the face of the epidemic. We are the force that can end it. When we invest in health, empower our choices, and trust our leadership, we don't just save lives, we secure our future. Thank you.
Thank you. Monalisa?
Mine is around dare, dream, do.
Wow. Great. Great, Monalisa. Nishant?
So I also told earlier that we don't need sympathy. We need space, access, and respect. Happy International Youth Day 2025. Thank you.
Thank you. Noor? Noor Fatima? Are you there? Okay, Pooja is not there, I think. Sonam? Is Sonam there? Yes.
Hello. I would
Yes.
like to quote His
Yes.
Majesty the Fifth King of Bhutan.
Yes.
He has stated, a nation's future will mirror the quality of her youth. A nation cannot fool herself into thinking of a bright future when she has not invested wisely in her children. Thank you and happy International Youth Day.
Thank you. Supriya?
So, from ancestral wisdom to sustainable action. Thank you so much and happy International Youth Day to everyone. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Supriya. And with this, we come to the close of today's session. Many thanks to our speakers as well as our audience for such a vibrant session filled with youthful energy, which we really wanted. The session has made it more than evident that youth can play a crucial role as agents of change, innovation, communication, and leadership. They are vital to promoting access to quality healthcare, including sexual and reproductive health services. They are also capable of questioning harmful gender stereotypes and promoting gender equitable attitudes and behaviors within their communities. They can drive progress by challenging existing power structures, mobilizing communities, and advocating for inclusive policies, as most of you have recommended, through their lived experiences. All force to youth power. Together, we can do it, yes. And goodbye till we meet again. Thank you.